The vast command ship of the Vraxian Empire hung in space above Earth, its massive hull blocking out the stars like an artificial eclipse. Admiral Clev stood on the observation deck, his forearms clasped behind his back as he studied the blue-green planet below. For 8,000 years, the Empire had expanded across the galaxy, bringing 70% of all known worlds under its control. This small watery planet would be conquest number 4,327. "Primitive, aren't they?" said Commander Dorn, joining the Admiral at the viewport. "Barely reached their own moon. No colony worlds. No real defenses." Clev nodded, his scaled head reflecting the soft blue light of the ship's interior. Their energy signatures suggest reasonable technological advancement, but nothing that could challenge us. Still, I find it curious they've developed so quickly despite being confined to one system. "A curiosity only, Admiral, not a concern." The communication panel chimed. "Admiral, we've received a response to our hail. The humans request visual contact." Clev straightened his ceremonial armor. First contacts followed a standard protocol. The natives would be fearful, perhaps defiant at first, but they always submitted when faced with the full might of the Empire. "Display the human representative." The screen flickered to life, showing a male human in a simple dark uniform. No elaborate decorations, no visible weapons, nothing to suggest military power. "I am James Marshall, representing the United Earth Government," the human said calmly. "We understand your empire wishes to discuss our integration into your territory." Clev allowed his upper mouth to form the smile that most species found intimidating. "There is little to discuss, human. The Vraxian Empire claims this system as imperial territory. Your species has two options: accept imperial rule and taxation with certain autonomies, or face immediate military action." The human showed no reaction, no fear, no anger. This was unusual. Most species trembled before the Empire's first ultimatum. "Admiral Clev, we've studied your approach to our system. We've decoded your communications and analyzed your technology," Marshall said. "We understand the Vraxian Empire has never encountered serious resistance in its long history." Clev felt a ripple of discomfort. How had they decoded secure Imperial transmissions? "Your point, human." "We have a message from Earth's Joint Military Command," Marshall continued, his voice steady. "It's quite simple. We advise you to run." Silence fell across the bridge. Then Commander Dorn laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the command deck. "Is this humor? Your primitive weapons can barely reach your own orbit." Marshall's expression remained unchanged. "This isn't a threat, Admiral. It's a warning from one sentient species to another. Humanity doesn't want war. But if you force this conflict, you should understand what you're starting." Clev waved a dismissive hand. "We've conquered species from every evolution path in the galaxy. Your warning is noted and ignored." "Then we have nothing more to discuss," Marshall replied. "For the record, Admiral, we did try to prevent what comes next." The transmission ended abruptly. "Arrogant creatures," Dorn muttered. "Shall we begin the standard subjugation protocol?" Clev hesitated, something about the human's calm confidence unsettling him. He'd overseen 83 planetary conquests in his career. None had started like this. "Launch a single demonstration strike," he ordered. "Target their largest military installation. Show them what real power looks like." As the weapons officer prepared the strike, Clev returned his gaze to the small blue planet. Something didn't feel right. Other species begged, threatened, or tried to negotiate. None had simply warned. "Target locked, Admiral. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The brilliant beam of energy lanced down toward Earth, and Clev couldn't shake the strange feeling that he'd just made a terrible mistake. What the Empire didn't understand was that humans had evolved as persistence predators, the only species in known space that hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. And for the first time in 8,000 years, the Empire was about to become the prey. The demonstration strike hit a remote military base in the Siberian wilderness. Imperial sensors confirmed complete destruction of the facility with an estimated 1,200 human casualties. Admiral Klev expected immediate surrender communications. None came. "Curious," he said, studying the tactical display. No response at all. Commander Dorn checked the sensor readings. Their global communications show increased activity, but they haven't contacted us. Perhaps they're discussing terms among themselves. Aboard the Imperial flagship, intelligence officer Tella reviewed the data strings her team had collected since discovering Earth 3 months ago. Unlike her superiors, she felt growing concern as she compiled her report. "Admiral, you should see this," she said, entering the command deck with a data tablet. "Our analysis of human history reveals disturbing patterns." Klev glanced at the report with 2 of his eyes, while keeping the others fixed on the tactical display. "Summarize. Humans are unique in our experience, sir. They evolved as persistence predators, the only sapient species we've encountered with this evolutionary path. They don't ambush or overwhelm with numbers. They pursue, relentlessly." Dorn scoffed. "How is this relevant? Their technology is centuries behind ours." Tella displayed images of human conflicts. Their entire history is marked by warfare. Unlike most species who develop technology to avoid physical combat, humans created technology specifically to become better at killing, and they adapt with remarkable speed. The display showed the rapid evolution of human weapons, from simple spears to nuclear weapons in less than 10,000 years. "Most concerning," Tella continued, "is that humans fight differently than any species we've encountered. They use deception, psychological warfare, and something they call asymmetric tactics that allow smaller forces to defeat larger ones." Klev's upper mouth formed a thin line. "Are you suggesting we should fear them?" "I'm suggesting caution, Admiral. Their response to our strike has been unusual. They're not panicking. They're organizing." As if on cue, the communications officer called out, "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth's military command." The screen showed a stern-faced human male in a different uniform than before. "This is General Reed of Earth Joint Forces. Your unprovoked attack has resulted in 1,246 deaths. We offered you the chance to leave peacefully. That offer has expired." Klev stepped forward. "Perhaps you misunderstand, human. That was merely a demonstration. The Empire controls 12,000 worlds. Your entire military couldn't stand against a single Imperial battle group." The general's expression didn't change. "You have 6 hours to leave our system. After that, we will respond with appropriate force." The transmission ended. "Arrogance," Dorn sputtered. "They still don't understand what they're facing." Tella studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. "Sir, we're detecting unusual movement patterns. Their military vessels are dispersing, not concentrating, and there's strange activity around their planet's poles." Klev dismissed her concerns with a wave. "Standard evasive tactics. Nothing worth our attention." He turned to the communications officer. "Send a message to the Emperor. Inform him that we've encountered minor resistance and request permission to execute a full planetary subjugation." 6 hours passed. The Empire's forces remained in position, their weapons ready. Nothing happened. "See, empty threats," Dorn said with a laugh. "These humans are all." The sensor array suddenly erupted with warnings. Multiple launches detected from Earth's surface. The tactical officer shouted. Thousands of small objects, rising rapidly. "Missiles?" Klev asked, his tone unconcerned. "No, sir. They appear to be small ships, hundreds of them, and they're using some kind of propulsion technology our sensors can't identify." For the first time, Klev felt a flicker of uncertainty. "Impossible. They don't have that capability." Tella's voice was quiet. "They didn't have it yesterday, Admiral. They developed it overnight. On screens throughout the fleet, they watched as Earth seemed to bristle with activity, like a creature raising its spines in defense or preparation to attack. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 8,000 years. They had never encountered a species that went from first contact to full-scale warfare in less than a day. They were about to learn why humans had warned them to run. The small human ship swarmed toward the Imperial fleet like angry insects. Admiral Clev watched with mild amusement as they approached his mighty warships. Primitive attack craft, he noted to Commander Dorn. They can't possibly penetrate our shields. They're not even properly armed, Dorn agreed, studying the sensor readings. Most appear to be transport vessels hastily fitted with makeshift weapons. Tella frowned at her console. Sir, they're approaching in an unusual pattern. It doesn't match any known attack formation. Fire warning shots, Clev ordered. Show them the futility of resistance. The massive Imperial cruisers unleashed a barrage that lit up space. Several human ships exploded, but the rest continued their seemingly chaotic approach. They're not retreating, Dorn said, surprise evident in his voice. Sir, the sensor officer called out. The human vessels, they're not all heading toward our main ships. They're spreading throughout our formation. Clev leaned forward. What are they doing? His answer came moments later as alarms blared across the command deck. Multiple boarding actions reported across the fleet. The communications officer shouted. Human forces are somehow bypassing outer shields and attaching directly to hull sections. Impossible, Clev hissed. Our shield technology is impenetrable. On the Imperial support vessel Dravak, Captain Alex Rivera led the first human boarding team through the emergency airlock they had cut into the alien ship. Their Special Forces armor, developed in the 6 hours since the Imperial strike, incorporated reverse-engineered elements from debris the humans had secretly collected when the aliens first entered the solar system. Move fast, Rivera ordered through the tactical comm. We have 8 minutes before they can organize a proper defense. The 12-person team split into 3 groups. Rivera led his squad directly toward what intelligence identified as the ship's engineering section. Contact, his point soldier whispered as 2 Imperial guards appeared around a corner. The humans fired first, not energy weapons like the aliens used, but specialized projectiles designed to fragment inside the aliens' environmental suits. The guards fell without raising an alarm. Different physics, same biology, Rivera murmured as they moved past the bodies. They still bleed. Across the Imperial fleet, similar scenes played out as human boarding teams targeted smaller support vessels rather than the heavily defended warships. They moved with precision that shocked the Imperial forces, who had never encountered an enemy that preferred close-quarters combat to long-range bombardment. On the flagship, Clev watched in growing horror as ship after ship reported successful human breaches. How are they navigating our vessels? He demanded. They've never seen Imperial ship designs. Tella's voice was grim. They're adapting, sir. Each boarding team is sending data back to Earth. They're learning our layouts in real time. The Dravak has gone silent, Dorn reported. We've lost all contact. Inside the Dravak's engineering section, Rivera stood before the ship's FTL drive, the most valuable prize in the galaxy for humanity. His team's engineer, Lai, was already connecting a data transfer device to the alien computer system. Downloading drive specifications now, Lai reported. It's incredible. Their faster-than-light technology operates on principles we theorized, but couldn't test without certain materials. How long until you understand it? Rivera asked. Lai smiled behind his visor. I already do. The principles are similar to our prototype drives, just more refined. We can replicate this within days. Rivera opened the general channel to all human forces. Package secured. Begin Phase 2. Across the Imperial fleet, human boarding teams simultaneously detonated specialized EMP devices designed to temporarily disable Imperial systems without damaging the technology humans wanted to capture. On the flagship, Clev staggered as the lights flickered and emergency systems activated. 23 ships reporting critical systems failure. The tactical officer called out. The humans. They're not destroying the vessels. They're capturing them. Recall all ships, Clev ordered. Retreat to safe distance and regroup. But it was too late. The human swarm had already achieved its primary objective, acquiring Imperial technology. On Earth, scientists received the first data packets from Rivera's team. Within hours, factories previously manufacturing cars and consumer electronics were retooled to produce components for humanity's first FTL ships. The Empire had expected a simple conquest. Instead, they had provided humans with the means to leave their solar system, and humanity's first destination would be Imperial space. The hunt had begun. Emperor Draz stared at the holographic map of the galaxy, his 4 eyes narrowing at the red symbols marking lost Imperial territories. In just 3 months, humans had captured 17 outer systems. The situation was unprecedented. How is this possible? He demanded, slamming a fist onto the table. They were contained to a single system. High General Vex stood rigidly before his emperor. The humans have mastered our faster-than-light technology with alarming speed. But more concerning is their warfare style. Explain. Imperial forces are trained for organized fleet combat, large ships, coordinated movements, overwhelming firepower, Vex said. Humans fight differently. They use small, fast ships. They avoid direct confrontation. They strike supply lines and communication hubs rather than military targets. A holographic display activated, showing footage of a recent battle. Imperial cruisers fired at seemingly empty space, while tiny human vessels darted between their formations, deploying what looked like simple metal debris. What am I seeing? Draz asked. Humans call it chaff, primitive technology that somehow confuses our targeting systems. They've also developed methods to mask their engine signatures, making them nearly invisible to standard scanners. In the command center of the human flagship Defiant, Admiral Thomas watched as his fleet prepared for the largest operation yet. 50 ships, most of them captured and retrofitted Imperial vessels, formed a loose, seemingly disorganized cloud around the Tarvos system, home to the Empire's largest shipyard. Status report, Thomas said. His tactical officer, Rodriguez, looked up from her console. All ships in position, Admiral. The Imperial defenders are deploying in standard formation, just as our psychological profile predicted. Thomas nodded. The Empire's greatest weakness was its own success. 8,000 years of military dominance had made them inflexible. They couldn't comprehend warfare as humans practiced it. Begin Operation Trojan, Thomas ordered. Across human-controlled space, Imperial prisoners watched in confusion as their captors treated injuries, provided comfortable quarters, and even allowed communication with other captured soldiers. This was not how conquerors behaved. One prisoner, Commander Leth, was brought before a human intelligence officer named Bennett. Why do you care for your enemies? Leth asked. It's inefficient. Bennett smiled. We're not like you. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be left alone. Then why attack our worlds? Because your emperor refuses peace talks. Every prisoner we treat well becomes a messenger when we release them. Leth's eyes widened. Release. Tomorrow. Along with 200 others. You'll be returned to Imperial space with a message for your leaders. In the Imperial capital, Emperor Draz received reports of the bizarre human custom of releasing prisoners. It made no strategic sense. They're trying to confuse us, General Vex suggested. Or perhaps they lack proper detention facilities. The intelligence director, Mora, disagreed. I believe it's psychological warfare. The released prisoners speak of human restraint and reasonable treatment. It affects troop morale. Before Draz could respond, an aide rushed in. Emperor, the Tarvos shipyards are under attack. The tactical display showed chaos. The human fleet had divided into dozens of small strike groups, each targeting different shipyard sections. Imperial commanders, trained to fight unified enemy formations, struggled to coordinate a response against so many small targets. "They're not following any known battle doctrine," Vex said, watching the disaster unfold. "Their ships move like animals hunting in packs." Within hours, the Empire's largest shipbuilding facility fell. But instead of destroying it, the humans captured it intact. "They're learning our technology," Mora realized. "Each facility they capture accelerates their advancement." In the ruins of his strategic plans, Draz finally accepted the truth. The Empire had always prevailed through superior numbers and technology. But humans had negated both advantages. They fought in ways that made numbers irrelevant, and they learned technology faster than any species in galactic history. "Contact our border worlds," Draz ordered. "Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel, and find the weaknesses in human psychology. There must be something they fear." But as reports arrived of more lost systems, the Emperor wondered if the greatest mistake in 8,000 years of Imperial history had been ignoring the simple warning: run. The Imperial Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display showed yet another system falling to human forces. 6 months into the war, humans had captured nearly 20% of Imperial territory, an achievement that should have been impossible. "They're bypassing our core defense systems," General Vex reported, his voice hollow with exhaustion. "They don't attack heavily fortified worlds. They take the minor planets around them, cut supply lines, and wait." Emperor Draz's scaled skin had lost its luster, his once proud posture now bent with worry. "How do they choose their targets? There must be a pattern." Science Director Maria Rice stood on the bridge of the human command ship Harbinger, studying the Imperial star charts her team had assembled. Unlike military officers focused on targets and strategies, Rice sought understanding. "Look here," she said, highlighting clusters of systems on the display. "Imperial culture follows a hub-and-spoke model. Their major worlds depend on smaller ones for resources and manufacturing. But their defensive thinking is hierarchical. Protect the center. Let the edges defend themselves." Admiral Thomas nodded. "So we continue taking the edges, and the center collapses on its own." "Not just that," Rice continued. "We've identified a crucial weakness in Imperial psychology. Their society is built on absolute certainty of victory. 8,000 years without significant defeat has created a civilization that cannot process failure." Thomas studied the data. "You're saying we don't need to destroy their military, just their confidence." "Exactly. Each world we take without a fight spreads more fear than any we conquer through battle." On the Imperial capital world of Raxus Prime, once busy streets were eerily quiet. Citizens watched the skies, wondering if humans would appear without warning as they had on so many worlds. In the Grand Palace, Emperor Draz met with his advisors in a room that had never before discussed the possibility of defeat. "The humans have developed weapons using our own technology against us," Intelligence Director Mora reported. "They've created devices that disable our shields by exploiting frequency harmonics we considered theoretically impossible to target." "How do they advance so quickly?" Draz demanded. "Their entire history is adaptation," Mora explained. "While we perfect single approaches over centuries, they create and discard dozens of solutions in days. They call it iterative development." An aide rushed into the chamber, breaking all protocol. "Emperor, humans have been detected in the Proxima system." Silence fell. Proxima was just 2 light years from Praxis Prime. "Impossible," General Vex whispered. "They would have had to bypass 8 defensive layers." "They didn't bypass them," the aide said. "They were never detected. We only found them because a supply ship stumbled upon their fleet." For the first time in the Empire's history, an enemy force had reached the heart of Imperial space. On the Harbinger, Maria Rice presented her findings to the United Earth Command via secure transmission. "The Imperial Central Worlds are psychologically unprepared for direct threat," she explained. "Their citizens have never experienced fear of invasion. The mere presence of our ships near their capital will create social instability beyond anything our weapons could achieve. The Earth Command leader nodded. Your recommendation? Don't attack Fraxis Prime. Not yet. Position our forces where they can be seen, but take no hostile action. Let fear do what our weapons cannot. The strategy proved devastatingly effective. Within days of human ships appearing near the capital, panic spread throughout the Imperial core worlds. Citizens who had never questioned the Empire's invincibility suddenly faced the possibility of defeat. Emperor Draz watched as reports flooded in of public unrest, economic disruption, and even isolated rebellions on long-subjugated worlds. The humans understand us better than we understand them, Mora said quietly. They've studied not just our technology, but our culture, our psychology. Draz's proud shoulders finally slumped in defeat. Contact the human fleet. Tell them the Emperor of the Vraxian Empire requests peace negotiations. The message was sent, but the response was not what Draz expected. We accept your communication, came the human reply. However, after consulting our historical records regarding your Empire's treaty practices, we must insist on unconditional surrender. The only terms we offer are these: the complete dissolution of the imperial government and the independence of all conquered worlds. For the first time in 8,000 years, the Empire faced not just military defeat, but extinction. The imperial palace shook as explosions rocked the capital city. Outside the ornate windows, the once pristine skyline of Fraxis Prime was marred by columns of smoke. The unthinkable had happened. War had reached the heart of the Empire. Traitor! High Admiral Keth spat, his ceremonial blade pointed at Emperor Draz's throat. You would surrender 8,000 years of glory to these primitives. Draz remained calm despite the blade inches from his neck. I would save our people. The humans cannot be defeated through conventional means. Coward, Keth hissed. Behind him stood a dozen military commanders, all supporting the sudden coup. The emperor who surrenders is no emperor at all. Guards loyal to Keth dragged Draz away as the admiral assumed control of the crumbling empire. His first order echoed through the governmental channels. No surrender. Fight to the last soldier. Commander Jackson stood on the bridge of the human assault carrier Nemesis, watching the imperial capital through the viewscreen. The sprawling city gleamed with golden spires and massive monuments to imperial conquest, a civilization built on the subjugation of thousands of worlds. Emperor Draz's communication channel has gone silent, reported Communications Officer Patel. We're picking up new broadcasts. Different voice, same channel. The hardliners have taken control, Jackson said, unsurprised. Human intelligence had predicted this response. They've chosen extinction over peace. Orders, Commander. Jackson studied the tactical display. Surrounding Fraxis Prime were the combined forces of humanity. 500 ships, most of them captured and repurposed Imperial vessels. 3 months of positioning had led to this moment. Begin Operation Checkmate, he ordered. Across the human fleet, cargo bays opened to release thousands of small pods. Each contained a reverse-engineered version of Imperial technology, modified in ways the Empire's scientists had never imagined. On the surface, High Admiral Keth gathered his commanders in the war room. We will show these humans what real warfare looks like. Deploy the planetary shield. Launch all defense platforms. A junior officer approached nervously. Sir, strange objects are entering the atmosphere. Thousands of them. They're too small to be ships. Shoot them down, Keth ordered. Defense platforms fired, destroying hundreds of the mysterious pods. But thousands more slipped through, designed specifically to evade Imperial targeting systems. The pods landed throughout the capital city. Citizens watched in terror as the devices opened, expecting devastating explosions. Instead, each pod projected a holographic message. People of the Empire, your leaders have declined our offer of peace. We have no desire to harm civilians. You have 6 hours to reach the designated evacuation zones. After that time, We will begin our final operation." Keth watched in fury as the population of Vraxis Prime fled toward the evacuation zones. Propaganda. Lies. Stand and fight for your empire. But 8,000 years of peace had not prepared Imperial citizens for war. They ran. 6 hours later, Commander Jackson gave the order. All ships, deploy blackout devices. The human fleet released a new weapon, one that transmitted the exact harmonic frequency of Imperial power systems. Across Vraxis Prime, every energy source simultaneously failed. Weapons, shields, communications, all went dark. In the Imperial Palace War Room, emergency lights cast an eerie glow as Keth and his commanders stared at dead consoles. "What is this sorcery?" one general whispered. Keth's response died in his throat as the palace doors slid open. Human soldiers in advanced combat armor walked calmly into the Imperial Command Center, weapons lowered but ready. At their head walked Commander Jackson. "High Admiral Keth, your shields are down. Your weapons are disabled. Your population has been evacuated. This planet is now under human control." "I'll die before I surrender," Keth snarled, raising his ceremonial blade. Jackson sighed. "That won't be necessary." He activated a small device on his wrist. Through the windows, the commanders watched as Imperial ships throughout the system suddenly powered down, drifting helplessly in space. "Your entire fleet has been neutralized." "Not destroyed, neutralized. We could have obliterated this planet from orbit. Instead, we came in person to offer terms." "What terms could there be but slavery?" a general demanded. Jackson shook his head. "Humanity doesn't want slaves or an empire. We want peace. Your choice now is simple. Join us in creating that peace, or be removed from power." The conquest of the Imperial capital, a world that had never known defeat, took just 37 Earth hours, the fastest fall of a major civilization in galactic history. 5 years after the fall of Vraxis Prime, the former Imperial Palace hosted representatives from over 300 worlds. The massive chamber, once decorated with trophies of conquest, now displayed artwork from countless civilizations. Where an emperor's throne once stood, a simple round table occupied the center. Admiral Rivera, now serving as Earth's diplomatic envoy, watched as delegates from formerly subjugated species mingled freely with humans and even former Imperial officials. The transformation still amazed him. "Remarkable, isn't it?" said Tella, once an Imperial intelligence officer and now the representative of her homeworld. "My people believed the Empire would last forever." Rivera nodded. "History is filled with forevers that ended abruptly. Yet you humans have done what no conqueror ever managed," Tella observed. "You defeated the most powerful empire in galactic history, but claimed no territory for yourselves." It was true. After the Empire's surrender, humanity had shocked the galaxy by refusing to establish their own dominion. Instead, they had created the Galactic Council, a governing body where all worlds held equal standing. "We never wanted an empire," Rivera explained. "We just wanted to be left alone. When that became impossible, we fought, but conquest was never our goal." The council session opened with a discussion of trade routes between formerly isolated systems. Humans had introduced the concept of open borders, revolutionary in a galaxy accustomed to strict imperial control. In Earth's solar system, the changes were equally profound. Using technology adapted from imperial designs, humans had transformed Mars and Venus into habitable worlds. The asteroid belt had become a manufacturing hub that supplied goods throughout the galaxy. Yet Earth itself remained largely unchanged, still the blue-green world that had produced the species that toppled an empire. After the council session, Rivera walked through the capital city with Mora, the former Imperial Intelligence Director, who had been one of the first to recognize humanity's potential. "Do you know what still puzzles me?" Mora asked. "You could have destroyed us completely. Your weapons at the end, they could have eradicated our species. Why show mercy?" Rivera stopped before a new monument in the central plaza, a simple stone bearing inscriptions in hundreds of languages. Its message was the same in each: peace through understanding. Because extermination was never an option for us, Rivera answered. Humanity's history is violent, yes, but we learned from it. We understand what it means to be both predator and prey. Mora considered this. The Empire never learned that lesson. In 8,000 years, we were always the predator, never the prey. Until you met us, Rivera said quietly. In a research facility beneath the former Imperial archives, human and alien scientists worked side by side, studying artifacts from civilizations long thought extinct. One discovery had shaken the galaxy's understanding of its own history. Dr. Liang, leading the archaeological team, explained their findings to a group of diplomats. These records indicate the Empire encountered at least 7 other species who warned them to run or delivered similar messages. In each case, the Empire destroyed them preemptively. 7 extinct civilizations, a diplomat murmured, all because the Empire couldn't imagine being threatened. Precisely, Liang confirmed. Humans weren't the first to warn the Empire. We were simply the first they failed to destroy. As night fell on Vraxis Prime, Rivera stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Ships from 100 worlds moved through the sky, their lights tracing patterns against the darkness. General Thomas joined him, the old soldier's face weathered by years of war and peace. The council voted to establish first contact protocols today, Thomas said, based on human suggestions. Future discoveries of new civilizations will be handled with diplomacy first, not demands for submission. Rivera smiled. So some good came from all this bloodshed. More than some, Thomas replied. The galaxy is at peace for the first time in recorded history. No wars, no conquests, no empires. Rivera thought about the simple warning that had started it all. 3 words that the Empire had fatally misunderstood. We advised them to run. Not because we wanted war, he said softly, but because we knew how devastating we become when forced to fight. Below them, the lights of the city sparkled like stars, symbols of a peace built not on domination, but on the understanding that some warnings should be heeded before it's too late.